Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Cities Association of Santa Clara County JPA Legislative Action Committee meeting for April the 10th. If I could have a roll call.
Certainly. Ann Bybee, present. Kitty Moore,
Here.
Greg Bozzo,
Here.
Daly, Rajiv Bateja, Rob Moore, Carmen Montano. I did see Carmen.
She was here.
I did see her.
Yeah, she's here.
I'm
Her
gonna-
stuff is here.
Yeah.
Okay. David Elahi, Mark Turner,
Here.
Ellen Kamei, or Chris
I'm
Clark.
here on her behalf. Yeah. Is our alternate
Thank you. Welcome. Ed Lowing,
here?
George Casey,
Here.
Kelly Cox. Kelly said she's going to be a few minutes late. Tina Walia,
Here.
Chelsea Chang. Here. We have quorum.
Excellent. All right. At this time, I'd like to open up oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for anyone who wishes to address the Legislative Action Committee on any matter not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. Do we have any members of the public in the room?
We do. We have Councilmember Home.
Councilmember Hines?
I don't think he wants to make a comment.
Okay, all right. Do we have anybody online?
We do, but nobody wants to make a comment.
All right, moving on then from that, we will move to our first item, which is the consent agenda, which consists entirely of the minutes from the March 13th meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? All right, in that case then, I would like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
perfect. So we have a motion by Mark Turner and a second by Tina Walia. If you could call our roll call vote.
I'll call you. I'm going to call you by cities. Do that way. Sunnyvale,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes.
Santa Clara, still not here. San Jose,
Yes.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Monte Sereno, still not here. Milpitas,
Yes.
Escados, not here. Los Altos Hills, Los Altos, Gilroy,
Yes.
Cupertino,
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Move on to the chair update. I don't have an update. Close that and move to 3, discussion and possible action on state legislation of interest to the Cities Association member jurisdictions. There should be an email that everyone has with a variety of bills categorized by type, and a series of individual printouts from the State Legislative Analyst's Office. But we will start with a guest speaker on one bill, which is Carly Shelby, who will be talking about Senator Becker's SB 457. Would you like to get us started?
Hi, can you guys hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk about this bill. I do want to kind of add it in the context of another bill that Cal Cities is sponsoring, just because both bills are very complementary. But hi, everyone. Carly Shelby with Townsend Public Affairs. I'm a senior associate representing the city of Palo Alto. Maybe some other of you in the room as well. I work, very close to the Capitol, so we've been working on this bill, Senate Bill 457, which has been sponsored by Senator Becker, and has been worked on diligently by the minds of both the Palo Alto City Council and their talented planning staff. And so this is a really great bill that we're very happy that Senator Becker has chosen to champion this year. So it really has 2 parts. And the first part is that it prevents builder remedy applications from being filed between the time a city has certified its housing element and when HCD has officially approved or denied the element. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily eliminate the application of builder's remedy altogether. It just creates kind of a safe harbor timeline between that, a liminal period between when a city files and when HCD has made its final determination. The second part of this bill is that it requires builder remedy applications to be complete in order to be eligible to move forward. So this really prevents the proliferation of speculative or placeholder projects that are incomplete, that allows developers to kind of file these half applications and then sue their way into kind of a final development. So we view this as preserving the builder's remedy as a tool of last resort. It has been enshrined within the Housing Accountability Act for decades at this point, and making sure that it's not used as a vehicle for opportunism in cities that are working diligently to comply with their housing element. I just want to mention too, and I'll just mention one other bill, because I'm sure that this does play into this other bill that I'm sure you guys have all heard of from the League of California Cities. But Assemblymember Pappen is running a similar measure, AB 650. This is complementary but a little different. This one really has to do with the cadence by which HCD and cities communicate, making sure that their determinations, their review processes are very uniform, and that there's not this back and forth all the time of, hey, you need to change this and this, and going back and forth, so that you guys are always stuck in this period where compliance is risked, and then these builder remedy projects move forward. So AB 650 has three key components. The first is that it extends the timeline for HCD to determine housing needs. It adds 6 months to that process to make sure that there's more time and flexibility in the system. And it also adjusts the timeline for COGS to determine and allocate their arena applications, or allocations, I mean. And that's really just to allow for some additional slack in the line. We know that this process turns around pretty quickly. Sometimes we're all surprised at how these numbers came to be. So we're hoping that that increases transparency and dialogue between locals and the COGS and the MPO. In addition to that, it enhances and creates uniformity within the review processes. HCD must stipulate exactly how cities can achieve compliance. And then this also provides jurisdictions with a temporary exemption from certain penalties, like the builder's remedy. But it's not during that time between when cities are actively fixing or submitting, between when they submit and when HCD makes that determination. It's a very narrow and temporary safe harbor for technical fixes only. So this allows for HCD to that safe harbor to extend for about a 90-day period. So we see these bills as very complementary. We would love for individual cities in this group to support the bill, or both of these bills. Senate Bill 457 will be in the Senate Housing Committee on April 29th. And AB 650 will be in the Assembly Local Government Committee on April 24th. So it's kind of a quick turnaround for some of these letters, but our team's happy to provide draft letters of support to anyone interested in supporting. But yeah, we see these as good bills this year. So happy to answer any questions.
I got a question. Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. After you.
On if you could pull that back up, the AB 457, and it may just be a bit of semantics I'm just concerned about, but when you talk about, oh, I'm sorry, is it SB 457?
Yeah.
Language there, the language there where it talks about, let's see, between the time a city has certified it, doesn't the state certify? We approve, the state certifies. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's when the housing element is adopted at the local level.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the
Yeah.
wording then is so that that doesn't get somehow manipulated by lawyers representing builders who are trying to apply for builder's remedy.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my only concern.
Yes. No, you're absolutely correct. It's between the time when the city has adopted its housing element and when HCD has either certified or denied it.
So, and so if this gets approved, if this happens to go through, we adopt ours and it takes 10 months, let's say, for the city to, or for the state to certify it. Within that 10-month period, we are not subject to builder's remedy applications. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay, and then and the other bill would protect us is if after we adopt it, the state comes back and says you got to tweak this, that, or the other. We have 90 days from the point at which they told us we have to fix it and not be hit with builder's remedy.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and is that because what we have found, and I think other cities would agree, that we went back and forth with HCD. Fix this, okay, we did. Now fix this, okay, we did. Now fix this. Does that 90-day protection apply to every time HCD comes back and says you've got to fix something?
Yes, it does. However,
Okay.
the way that the bill is drafted, hopefully will disrupt that constant cycle of back and forth. So there's only
Okay.
one true comprehensive fix this to achieve compliance discussion.
And is it likely anything could be changed here based on from the time at which we see this tonight and the time it goes to I think to the Assembly floor and to the Senate, that things could be changed in this bill that we might not necessarily approve of?
That is always a possibility depending on how these chairs and how the committees interact with these measures. From discussions that we have had with the author's office, with committee staff, and with other members of the committees, there haven't been a lot of red flags raised initially. However, this is the state legislative process. Things always change. I think that over the next week or two, just because this next week the legislature will be in spring recess, nothing will change between that time. But there very well could be changes that emerge during the committee process.
And if those changes occur and we don't agree with them, are we able to pull our endorsement?
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. I'm good. Thank you.
And if I might just interject, if there is something you want to do in order to watch the bill, there's a mechanism for
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And if you see that there's a change you don't like, we can always re-agendize it to see if
Sure.
we want to reevaluate the bill.
Very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm good. Thank you.
And then I think
Thank you. So, one clarification on, thank you for those questions. But if we re-agendize, that would be in the May meeting. And
it would be
meanwhile,
at
the
the
committee would.
committee.
Okay,
Correct.
thanks. So I have two questions, Carly. Thank you. Firstly, I'll just lay the questions out up front. Firstly, are these bills going to be retroactive for the current housing element cycle? And the second question is, I can see. Thank you, George. The second question is, or actually, really, the first question in my mind is, we have a scenario in our county, I believe, where there may be cities that approved their housing element without finishing everything regarding zoning, etc. Okay? And I can talk very specifically about the city of Saratoga. We did not approve because we submitted our first draft in good faith, way ahead of the deadline. We submitted it in July of 2022, kept on waiting. None of our opportunity sites were ever questioned or changed in the final version, which was certified by HCD 24 months later, July of 2024. So the opportunity sites have not changed. We did not approve, even though we did our work, we did not approve till March of 2024. And builders' remedies came in, 18 or so of them, within that week when the whole world knew we were going to approve our housing element. So this doesn't help us, even though we were ahead of the curve, we did everything in good faith, and clearly it was the right thing because HCD did certify it 24 months later, 22 builders' remedy projects later.
Wow.
It is the worst case in the county, I believe.
It happens all the time.
Where the city tried its best, was kept on being asked to give more analysis or clarifications or tweak some programs or policies, never ever questioned the opportunity sites. Is there provision or can we ask for that amendment in these things?
So I think that I've had this conversation with Senator Becker's staff, because I think you talked to Sabrina about this provision. This language has been diligently crafted by Ledge Council, by our planning department, and by the author's office and staff as well. So I hear you on that. I think that that may be something for us to explore. I think what happened when those amendments were proposed was Ledge Council didn't see them fitting into this particular statutory code. So that may be another bill vehicle for us to look at. But we can talk offline and we can talk about a potential solution to that moving forward.
Okay, I'd really appreciate that, Carly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So the fact that this is not retroactively applicable, if it were to be signed into law, it's really effective as a tool moving forward for the next housing element cycle. Or perhaps if HCD were to question midway through the current housing element cycle, some cities scenario with the housing element.
Yeah.
That's the benefit.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm looking at the bill text and I'm just trying to figure out if there are protections for, I don't think any of our cities would do this, but, for a city that submits kind of the outline of a housing element that clearly isn't going to pass muster, but it stops the clock. And then HCD comes back and says, oh, well, you need to, do this whole set of things, and then you have 90 days, but the clock just keeps ticking. And so I'm just, that's a long way of asking, are there protections against, just submitting an outline of a housing, a housing element that you certify as a city, but is clearly not going to get certified, but the purpose is just to stop the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's definitely going to be a question raised in the first policy committee process, and that may be reflected in some amendments that we will see, just related to determining that both parties are acting in good faith to produce a near complete or what they deem a complete housing element submission, and then also HCD ensuring that they're doing their part to uphold, the timing and response kind of shot clocks that we hope to set for them in order to establish uniformity and progress through cycle 7 and onward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ed Lowing from Palo Alto. We just approved this last Monday night. And one of the things that came up from some council members is that they were suggesting amendments to their liking now before approving it. I'm kind of picking up on your question. And the normal legislative process has amendments all the time. So my position that night was the bill filed, and it will almost, I'd probably go, she's more experienced at this than I am, but I'd probably say it's close to 100% that there'll be some changes because the senator's negotiating with somebody else and he says, well, if you give me this, then I'll go for it. And that's, 4 words or whatever it is, or a slight amendment. So I did not see the relevance of discussing amendments now because it'll be amendments. And particularly if we get a second bite, as you just raised, that we can say, no, now the bill's changed too much. We pull our support. So I just raised that as our recent experience in an hour and a half debate over what we just had. But I want to address a question to Carly, who was online Monday night for our meeting. I want to make sure that you answered the question correctly for, I think it was Tina that asked this one. So the second part of the bill is intended to protect cities against folks that basically developers that say, well, it looks like their housing element's going to get approved pretty soon. So I want to sort of sneak in an application that is a very limited application that says it's going to be 10 condominiums on the back of a scrap of paper. I mean, that can be that simple. And right now that qualifies, which to me is outrageous because that means that the next day they could change it to whatever they want and be completely different, and they can still put up housing, a builder's remedy project that has nothing to do with that 10 condominiums. So, Carly, isn't that what we're trying to actually impact retroactively? So if that change is made in this bill, then those scraps of paper that were put in that are nowhere near a completed application would not be declared as valid to move forward on builder's remedy.
That, from our understanding of the text and from the way in which this is crafted, the application of this should go into effect beginning January 1st of 2026, if it were to be passed into law. That being said, it could retroactively impact those half completed applications that are still caught in this lurch of like almost approved. So in that sense, yes, it would act retroactively. However, those builder's remedy projects that have been vetted and approved are moving forward, it would not cancel those out now that you're compliant.
Right, but the second part of the bill makes a distinction between, I don't remember the terminology, but an initial application versus a completed application. And the completed
Yes.
one, as we all know, is pretty rigorous in every city. So that's one of the things, we're trying to prevent here, is that kind of almost fraud on the part of a developer to get to put in something that has nothing to do with. They haven't even thought about what they're going to really do. They just want to keep a place in line.
Yep, that's exactly.
So, Carly, did I hear correctly from Mayor Lawing right now, or did I understand correctly that because we have a bunch of those, I will call them pre-applications, which may go through multiple rounds back and forth with the city. I'm talking builder's remedy, which are not complete applications by January 1, 2026, could be not valid anymore, because today's Mercury News has a city's similar situation. It's like 90 days, your application is not complete, done. But I'm not talking of that city, I'm talking Saratoga. We have a bunch of those. The final application may or may not even get done. And they've gone through multiple iterations with the city giving them, not changing our position, but going through the checklist that this is needed, this is needed, this is needed.
Yeah, the timing that I was talking about is the timing that's in the bill, which is the time between a city has, again, I'm trying to think of the word, substantially completed. They've adopted something that is substantially complete, and then 3 months later, or in your case, 2 years later, the HCD said, "Yeah, we agree." 2 months ago or 2 years ago, it was substantially complete, and you just tweaked it. And if that happens, then then those builders remedies that are in file and not complete, they would not be allowed to go forward
Provided that they applied in that window of
in that
time.
window. That's right.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so that is, I don't know if you want to put probabilities on it, because again, we have to go through the amendment process and the debate and other bills that would come up and all that. But I think that's part of the enthusiasm around elected officials and citizens to get some relief for some crazy projects that are already on the drawing boards and not substantially complete, just initial. So I'm back with that question to Carly.
Yes, that is the intention of the language, and that is how it would likely interact with the law once if it were to pass in its current form.
Thank you.
I have a question. Seems to me that there's some dialogue in this room that people would love the idea that this law was retroactive. Has there been any discussion of that?
I mean, I think that it would make it a lot more difficult to pass in the current political climate. Just given, seeing what has passed out of this legislature over the past couple of years. So I don't think that provisions making all of it retroactively applied through all past element cycles and pending applications is something that could be feasibly incorporated and passed at this point. But that's not to say we can't try at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify, since that topic keeps coming up, Carly, the nature of where the legislature sits on this is that this bill would significantly amend AB 1886, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, which passed pretty overwhelmingly. So, making modifications to a recent change in the law that was intended to basically say, ratify an HCD position that cities are not compliant until HCD says they're compliant is going to be a big lift to begin with. What this bill does, as I read it, is to adopt what was previously an understanding that you would be compliant the moment that you adopted if HCD said you were also compliant, because your document is not changing. It's a relation back doctrine, yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's basically the idea. It seems a little absurd that you would adopt a document and then you'd have to wait forever for HCD to say something. If they say yes, then it's not like the document has changed between when they said yes, this is compliant, and the date that you adopted it. So you were compliant on that date. That is what this bill is accomplishing, yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to make that clear.
That's the first point.
Yeah.
And the second bullet is the other one that I was talking about.
Yes. Yeah. That is an after the fact legal effect.
Yeah, which that one probability wise might be easier to pass than the first one, as you just mentioned.
Anyone else with question?
Real quick, is this the Cal Cities support for this? Do we have that? Is that what this is? I
So
don't
Cal
know.
Cities is sponsoring AB 650, the Pappen bill. We are essentially sponsoring Senate Bill 457.
Okay. Thank you.
But we're soliciting their support on this as well.
By we, you mean Townsend?
Yes.
Okay.
And the cities that we co-represent.
Anyone else?
Actually, I do have one question. So let's say hypothetically, well, for example, the city of Milpitas, we have it's been certified, our housing element. But we've already designated certain areas that we're going to build housing. Well, let's say that we don't build those housing, and does this SB, does this one apply to that as well, with the builder's remedy?
Sorry, I don't think you mean sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, so let's say that our housing element, it's already been approved. But, we've already said, oh, well, these are the number of housing we're going to build. But if we fall short on that, does this SB 457 apply with the builder's remedy? I mean,
It shouldn't. I mean, your responsibilities as a locality in terms of, RENA compliance really have to deal with zoning and not development. Cities don't build housing, developers do. So, if for any reason, those units zoned, within the previous cycle are not effectuated, you wouldn't be penalized by builder's remedy projects at any point in the process. It's only if you are not effectively zoning pursuant to your RENA obligations.
okay, so we don't have to build those houses, all that rezoning, or building housing, we don't have to do it that period, even in the next cycle. So, okay, I get it. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
To recast the question, though, if HCD were to decertify a city, how would this bill interact with that in the course of recertification?
I don't know if I am too familiar with a once certified, now decertified process. Although I would imagine that as it's written within the Housing Accountability Act, builders remedy projects are permitted to move forward in jurisdictions that do not have a compliant housing element. So
Yeah.
But presumably, if you were to then resubmit whatever it is that you need to fix, do you think
right.
that you see the issue?
Yeah. That's a good question that we'll have to talk over with committee staff.
Okay.
But I see the concern, yeah.
Thank you. So I'd like to understand more about the decertification peril that cities might be facing. How would that happen?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that. Decertification within this current cycle, I mean, the whole RENA process is cyclical. I mean, so I'm assuming that most all of you have certified housing elements at this stage within cycle 6. I'm not too familiar with HCD decertifying communities once they've achieved housing element compliance. So I can't really speculate on how that would happen.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I want to make a comment. And so Carly, I'm amazed how the state HCD is pushing for all the cities to build more housing because of this housing crisis. But the problem is, it's not really it's the affordability, and that language is not in there, and that's really bothersome. And I've always wondered why they never put the word affordability. And these builder remedy projects that developers build, there's nothing in there that they need to be affordable. So it's a conundrum.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Builders Remedy initially required a minimum 20% affordability standard. That was reduced last year under AB 1893, which is referred to as kind of the Builders Remedy 2.0 measure. So I completely agree with your sentiment about reductions of affordability standards in order for, what legislators are trying to do is to, streamline and propel the production of more housing, even if it's market rate. But I hear you on that. And that's a common theme that we've seen within this legislative cycle and within the previous ones about really reducing affordability standards, deed owner occupancy requirements, deed restrictions, everything within the climate that really keeps properties affordable and not utilized for commercial or short-term rental purposes.
Anyone else?
Carly, hi, I have a question about AB 650. In the Cal Cities press release, it says it would ensure cities are not penalized when HCD identifies issues not identified in prior review letters. So would that also apply during the time it's submitted in good faith?
Yeah, so that's really referring to that temporary exemption from certain penalties, which includes the builder's remedy. So it's saying that, if there's a back and forth process and they're requiring, subsequent revisions in order to achieve compliance, that, you have that 90-day stay period so that you're not racking up more applications or being fined or sued by the Attorney General and the Housing Accountability Unit within their branch. So yeah, it's referring to penalties including builder's remedy projects.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? All right. At this time, I think I'd like to take any public comment, or anyone who would like to offer it. Do we have anyone in the room? Anyone online?
No.
Nope. Okay. Is there anyone who would like to make an appropriate motion with respect to this bill, SB 457?
Can I have a comment?
Sure.
I'd like to make a comment just so that I'm clear in what I'm understanding about this bill. Or rather, both the bills. Are we talking both or only one?
457 is what I put forward. If
Okay.
people want to discuss 650, since we have an expert here, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, so SB 457, to me, it seems like it may not solve all the problems, but it is a few steps in the right direction. Is that correct?
That's a judgment call.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing because I heard what Mayor Turner said. You all heard what my concerns are specifically to my city. Mayor Lowing from Palo Alto made his remarks. Clearly, Mayor Montano from Milpitas pointed out exactly what we have been screaming loudly about builder's remedy and all the other comments here. So is that a fair assessment? Generally speaking, it seems to be headed in the right direction, even though it doesn't solve all the problems. It's not retroactive, it's not this, it's not that kind of a thing. But still, it's better than, it's trying to make some movement in the right direction. Okay.
Yeah.
thanks.
Yes.
Go
absolutely.
ahead if you wanted to help more.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
open.
I'll just say that the legislative process is extremely iterative. Keep in mind, we're, seeking to amend a proposal that was passed just last year. We see over 2,000, measures introduced each year. So if this proposal continues, there's no stopping us from building upon it in subsequent sessions. And there's no lack of bill vehicles or, avid legislators to help us achieve that goal.
Thank you.
I was wondering why we're limiting the support just for SB 457 and why we would not add AB 650 on as well. That is the one that was mentioned that Cal Cities is supporting.
If you'd like to make a motion that we consider SB 450, I'm sorry, AB 650 as well, you're welcome to do that.
So I would move, so your plan is to send a letter of support for SB 457, and additionally, my request would be also show support for AB 650.
If you want to make that motion, you can make that motion. The reason that only SB 457 is here is because that was the ask that came from Townsend. There wasn't an ask for AB 650, so it's not something that I listed.
Okay, so I did print out the Cal Cities biggest bills for cities this year list, and they mention AB 650. But then they move on to say one of the most significant housing bills so far is SB 79, which I'm not seeing on the list that we were given this afternoon. So I hope that's on our radar. But I would like to understand what this committee's kind of stances with regards to alignment with Cal Cities. So if Cal Cities is in support, are we in alignment with what they're supporting or not? Any thoughts?
Run the question by me one more time.
So are we in alignment with what Cal Cities is suggesting to support? So they are suggesting AB 650. And I hear that Townsend is requesting Cal Cities also look at
It seems to me that these two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I would say support them both. And we don't know if does it look better in the eyes of the legislature if it's from Cal Cities or from an individual. We want to have our best shot at having something pass. So that's my preference, would say support both.
Yeah, no, I can support that.
Can I just clarify, when you make the motion is to recommend that the board takes the position of, not that, the motion is to recommend that this committee recommends that the board takes that motion. Now that, right.
So it's not this committee, okay, so that we recommend to the board to support both AB 650 and SB 457.
Just a point of clarification, I didn't see AB 650 in our unit.
Like I said, it was not something that was asked for us to support. So it was not included, but since we have an expert here today, and if you'd like to continue discussing, that's perfectly
I mean,
fine.
I would have liked to look at the bill and read it
Sure.
and understand it.
I-
We could probably look at that next time around.
Yeah.
Let's get the 457
If
done.
you'd prefer to.
Just point of clarification, based on what you just reminded us, Vice Mayor Elahi. Can we actually take a position, Shelley, on AB 650, just because it was not there? But I think that way you agendized, it is open to the bills.
Exactly.
I just wanted to make sure. So we could, technically,
Yeah.
we are okay if you wanted to. I also hear you that you would have liked to look at the bill.
We can put 650 on the next time. I mean,
Sure.
it sounds like a good bill to support and make that. I just haven't read it, so I can't.
So is there
Comment on it.
is there a motion? Was that a
My
motion?
question
So
was
maybe,
to support both. So and I would like to understand the process here a little bit more for what ends up on our
yeah,
agenda. Do I understand correctly that this list of bills came out just this afternoon for us to look at? Okay, so
yeah,
to me,
it was, yeah.
that's inadequate advance notice too, because I was in a BTA PAC meeting as well, that I needed to prepare for. So I did turn in a list. I took the exact Cal Cities bills of support from April 2nd, and I turned that in. I've also been a member of the American Association of Environmental Professionals, and I added the AEP legislative update as well, if people were interested in the environmental bills. And so I think, I don't know if anyone else turned in any bills of interest, for the committee. Okay, as well. So I would like to know what other members of this committee have turned in that they were interested in, and have all those materials made available so that, and when I sent this in, it was, Friday. So we did have a little bit of time where we could have looked at these and for procedures, if there's a way that we can add bills to look at here, because you did actually ask us to make that submittal, and I don't understand how things were determined for discussion.
Yeah, and I would I'd agree. The bills that we received today, I really haven't had time to look at them, and typically I would ask our staff to review and provide input. SB 457, I could go forward with. And maybe what I'd recommend is whether you withdraw that motion or we do a substitute motion to submit or to motion that SB 457 be approved separately from AB 650. And if people are uncomfortable with 650, at least we get 457 passed. If people are comfortable with passing 457 is what I'm saying.
Through the chair, you may make that substitute motion and then it'll get voted on first.
Sure. It's just as a point of order, I don't even think that we need to make it as a substitute motion because I don't think there was a second for the initial.
That's correct. There was no second. Correct. Yeah.
Did you make a motion for before?
So to clarify, is the motion to support SB 457? Just simple as that, or to
Yeah.
recommend to the board that we support SB 457?
I thought Vice Mayor, through the chair, I heard Vice Mayor Moore say support both SB 457 and AB 650.
Correct, but
Without a
Mayor
second.
Turner, yeah, they didn't have a second. Mayor Turner was offering a different motion.
Correct.
Yeah, to consider these individually.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so that's a motion. Okay, thank you.
So he needs a second?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second it.
So the motion is to consider them separately.
So this is
So
just a
we need to
procedural
vote.
motion. Then.
So now we need
Okay.
to vote on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So the motion to consider SB 457 and AB 650 separately from each other was made by Turner, seconded by Bazo. I'll take a roll call vote. Campbell,
I'm not clear on the motion. So are we,
The
We're
motion is
deciding whether we're gonna just talk about or vote on them separately.
correct, and not together.
Aye.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Los Altos?
Yes.
Altos Hills is not here. Los Gatos is not here. Milpitas?
Yes.
Monte Sereno?
Yes.
Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Mountain View?
Yes.
Palo Alto?
Yes.
San Jose?
Yes.
Santa Clara?
Yeah, and noted, as Mayor Turner said, our position was no position tonight, but because we have background in 457, we will move forward with that. But because of the timing, the rest was again. So this was a good motion for us. We say yes for 457. Thank you.
Saratoga?
Aye, for the reasons I just stated. Agree. Thank you, Mayor Turner.
Sure.
Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
So I'll move, if it's appropriate, I'll move that we recommend supporting 457.
I'll second that.
Motion to recommend that the Cities Association Board of Directors take a support position on SB 457 was made by Clark, seconded by Turner. Roll call vote. Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Yes.
Santa Clara?
Yes.
San Jose?
Yes.
Palo Alto?
Yes.
Mountain View?
Yes.
Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Monte Sereno?
Yes.
Milpitas?
Yes.
Los Altos?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. And then it sounded like people wanted to separately discuss AB 650. Was there additional discussion that people wanted?
Well, I think as others have stated, there wasn't a lot of time to read through these. My position tonight was really going to be to either abstain or recommend that you give us some time to let our staffs kind of review and provide some input for us as well for the rest of these.
We could certainly defer making a decision, but if you have, if you still want to discuss the matter, is
Yep.
Carly still online with us?
Yes, she is.
Yes. So if you have additional questions for Carly, since this was not one that was even asked of us tonight, it would be, I think, good to get answers to questions if people have them now.
Yeah.
Because it's a different vehicle, to be sure.
Yeah.
So I'll just read what Cal Cities has for it. AB 650 would refine parts of the housing element law to ensure the Department of Housing and Community Development efficiently certifies local housing plans. The Cal Cities sponsored bill would allow cities to start drafting their housing elements 6 months earlier. It would also require HCD to provide more guidance when reviewing draft plans and ensure cities can respond to changes proposed by HCD during the review process. And they'll probably have more information on their website. But I don't expect a vote tonight. My preference would be that more information could come back to us. So we can consider it in the next meeting.
Question, or comment? Since we have Carly here, it would be helpful if she can also give us her input on 650 so that we can understand it better. Still here?
Yes. Sorry, what was the question about the impacts?
If you can give us some more information on 650, because most of us haven't read it, but if you have any additional information to provide other than what Vice Mayor Katie Moore provided, that would be helpful. I don't know if you've heard our comments.
Yeah, the measure really is in three parts. It's extending those timelines for the arena allocation process between the MPO and local governments, and then for HCD to determine housing needs on a statewide level. It has an enhanced and uniform review process on how they stipulate how exactly cities can achieve compliance. And then the third provision has to do with the temporary exemption from certain penalties, including the builder's remedy, during that period between when HCD is reviewing and providing comments on how to achieve compliance.
Do you
So
see any
deadline extension, enhanced process, protection from penalties.
Do you see any conflict between 650 and 457?
No. we have talked extensively with committee staff and with both authors, and they view them both as complementary.
Thank you.
As a point of future clarification, it would be helpful to understand as well, following up on Vice Mayor Moore's comments about the agenda and receiving the information on the day of the agenda. To me, that seems like we're in violation of the Brown Act. We're getting information the day of come to a meeting to be prepared to discuss things, and the members of the public haven't even received that information. So I'm not clear on how we're expected to come to a meeting and not have items on the agenda prior to the 72-hour posting. So maybe someone could explain that, or
We can come up with a more formalized process, I think.
not to be critical, but it's just,
I think that's
to have a good dialogue and be informed. It's helpful to know ahead of time.
Anyone else?
Are we in violation of the Brown Act?
No.
I guess we're only making a recommendation.
Yeah.
The directors meeting, they might be in violation if they vote on it at that point.
The notice is broad enough that we pass this by agency council and they don't feel that it's a problem. But as a practical matter, I certainly understand.
Through the chair. So it would be my preference, and I think I might have support here, that when the agenda comes out, that the materials come out with it. And that after this meeting, at the very least, those items are made available. And with that, for the previous meetings that we've had presentations, and I would like to personally see those posted as well. I think it would help for us to looking back on the meetings. But for this item, and for the next meeting, if we have the agenda and those and the bills at the same time.
Anything else for Carly while she's here? Yeah, Carly. Do you have, is your office tracking AB 1359 by Patrick Aaron?
Yes, I believe so. And I have talked with him about that vehicle turning into something else potentially.
Okay. It did receive some amendments.
Yes. Okay.
But they're all relevant to what it was originally attempting to do.
Yeah, I am happy to provide more information about this bill. Unfortunately, I have to go to another committee tonight and present on similar topics because this was kind of a last minute presentation that we've scheduled. So please send over any questions you have about measures, and our team is happy to accommodate them. We want to be as helpful to you all as possible through this process and through navigating the what feels like thousands of bills that are introduced this year.
Thank you very much then.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. So do we have a consensus on what we want to do with AB 650? Because it sounded like you wanted to maybe table it.
Yeah, I think tabling it and bringing it back next month would give us more time to, look it over and talk about it.
Okay. So is there a motion from someone to continue discussion of AB 650?
So moved.
What else?
I'll second.
Motion to continue discussion of AB 650 by Turner, seconded by me. Campbell?
Aye.
Cupertino?
Aye.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Montesrino,
Yes.
Morgan Hill,
Yes.
Mountain View,
Yes.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
San Jose,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Yes.
Sunnyvale.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. So we will consider 650 at the next meeting. And it sounds like it will have gone through committee at least once then too, so. All right. Since there are concerns about the amount of time anyone's had to review what we have up for discussion today, I did want to point to at least the last bill on the list in the 30 minutes that we have left, which is SB 753, if only because we have had a presentation on it in the past from Senator Cortese. This is the shopping cart retrieval bill that he was discussing, and there was a request from the city of San Jose for support on this item. The link to it will tell you the very basic things that it allows a city to do, to authorize a city or county to retrieve and return a shopping cart to the parking area or premises of the owner. It would also allow a city or county to establish a fine that is not just the $50 for each occurrence. So it changes the existing state law that is extremely restrictive and gives cities significantly more latitude as to what they can do with with shopping carts that are just left in the neighborhood. Like I said, there's a link in the email, so if you want to take a look at the language, you can. It has not yet reached committee, so there is no staff report that's available for it, unlike a number of the other bills that are on the list. But if you would like to consider this one, that seems appropriate.
So I have a comment and a question, because I also did not have time after receiving the email to read any of this. I do remember Senator Cortese talking about this, and I also remember attending the Cal Cities webinar on the bills. And they are supporting it. There's a sample support letter online. But my question is more, is this putting the burden on the business owners? Because now we are saying that they have to pay for this. Can someone help me get a better sense of the bill is essentially what I'm saying.
Yes, that's basically what it allows you to do. As a city, you can now fine the operator in order to return the cart the same way that you would any other fee.
Right, but it's a user that has taken the cart away, not the business owner.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't mean you have to impose that fee.
I understand.
Right, yeah.
I'd still like more time to talk it over with staff and see what their thoughts are on it as well.
All right. In that case, then what I would suggest as a solution is that we continue the remaining items that are here. And if there are other bills that people are interested in, I'd like to hear about them now because I only received information from 2 people. So
According to Cal Cities, one of the most significant housing bills so far is SB 79, Senator Wiener, which would ignore state certified housing elements and force cities to automatically approve certain transit-oriented development up to 7 stories high and at a density of 120 homes per acre. Transit agencies would have full land use authority on land they own without any requirements to develop housing. Cal Cities strongly opposes the bill. So that sounds like something we might be interested in. Cal Cities is also reviewing a 22 permitting reform bill package introduced last week by 16 legislators. That would be a few weeks ago. I don't know much about that. Would like to hear it. There's a number of environmental quality ones, and I thought that you had several emergency types of bills, and I haven't looked at them, but I think that there's probably some really good things in there. And I am concerned about SB 607. The way I'm reading it, and I could be wrong, it seems as though you could have an infill, a project which is trying to take an infill exemption that needs to, the way it kind of reads is that you need to have basically two things wrong with the project. So if one of them is that it doesn't qualify because it's has environmental hazardous waste on the site, well, that's one. You're going to need another thing that would have made it not pass. That's how it kind of reads. So I'm hoping that whoever's supporting that bill has looked into that and understands that if it's a contaminated site with hazardous waste on it, that should make it disqualified. So that I'd like to hear more about that bill.
607?
Yes, SB 607.
We could do a grouping of CEQA related bills if you want.
With the eye towards, in particular, the environmental hazards and not bypassing CEQA when there's potential risk to the workers, the nearby residents, and future residents. Because I'm seeing projects going through that are getting ministerially approved that then, because of the hazardous waste on the site, they're needing a vapor intrusion monitoring system, vapor barrier, consistent monitoring, the site's still being cleaned up from like a dry cleaner, for example. There's an SB 35 that's in this scenario. So I'd prefer not to see projects like that getting ministerially approved.
I've got some here. I can just run down the list here for you. AB 650, of course, we're tracking. SB 79, SB 677, SB 346, and AB 939.
All of those were already on our watch list other than 939. What is 939?
The Safe, Sustainable Traffic Producing Transportation Bond Act of 2026.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just so we recently restarted our legislative review committee and selected to use our previous legislative platform. So like with regards to the shopping cart issue, I'm having trouble trying to take the definitions that we have in that list to be able to vote on that where we do get to that point. So there might be things where I'm going to need to abstain because they're just not fitting in with the platform. And there might be other committee members here that are in the same situation where something's just too far afield from what your city council has said that you support or oppose.
Sure. Although I'd encourage you to talk to the city attorney about whether you have added latitude here, because you may.
Possibly.
Anyone else? Santa Clara have anything in particular that they were? No.
I mean, we probably do. I'm new, so I'm gonna lay back. Yeah.
Got it. Councilmember Casey, I know that we had received some number of bills from your office. One of them involved copper wires. Do you recall the bill number?
Yes, it's Bill AB 476. Oh, no, I'm not muted on mine. You're not
You're
hearing?
still muted.
It doesn't say muted on mine. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. might try to.
Put it in the chat, AB
There we go.
476.
476, okay. All right. So I have, in addition to the ones that we've already got from Councilmember Moore, SB 607, SB 79, SB 677, SB 346, and 939 it was from Mayor Turner, and then AB 476. Anyone else? You can send them to Shally at any time. I just want to make sure that we have enough time to discuss them, especially if they're going to engender a lot of questions like today's bill. And that we try to consider bills that are of similar form together so that, you know, when the experts are here to offer insight, that we make the best use of it. So with that, if I can just have a motion to continue the remaining items.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to continue the remaining items to next month's meeting by Turner, second by Walia. Campbell? Aye. Cupertino?
Aye.
Gilroy?
Yeah.
Los Altos?
Yes.
Milpitas?
Yes.
Montessorino?
Aye.
Morgan Hill?
Yes.
Mountain View?
Yes.
Palo Alto?
Yes.
San Jose?
Yes.
That's a yes from San Jose. Santa Clara?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Yes.
Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, then. Then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We have a shopping cart ordinance. So if, but we hire somebody to pick them up, a company.
Yeah, nice.
And, what the company does is it takes it back to the store owner. And if the store owner doesn't
Yeah, and you can approve
pick it up, the store, will charge them.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll approve it.
And then